Hello, welcome to Math for All, where we try to make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are excited. We get to talk with our friend Brittany Rhodes again. It has been a long time since we've been able to do that. And per usual, she is doing amazing work in this space. And so we're really excited to have this conversation. You can find us or past episodes on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. You can also follow along at Blue Sky Social. And tonight, shortly after the show, I'll be hosting Elementary Math Chat on Blue Sky.
Oh, you will?
It's a busy night.
Wow, that's cool. I did not know that. That's so fun. I don't have our book with us because I am visiting my family, but you can find our book, Math Activators. Do you have it? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
We don't, neither one of us have a copy of our own book. That's fine. Math Activators at Didex, and it features activators involving integers, fractions, and decimals. And you can also find us on our website, mathforall.us. So, but here's the topic we're going to be talking about today. I would say that we've talked about this a bit this season, don't you think? I mean, even if this wasn't the topic, it's been percolating. Oh, 10 seconds. Okay, I don't like that.
Brittany's one of the original people to be talking about this, I think, in a super meaningful and specific way. And so it'll be exciting to hear more about that work.
Yes. So let me introduce Brittany. Brittany Rhodes is the founder and general manager of Math Equals Me, a social enterprise closing the math confidence gap for K-8 students. Math Equals Me serves schools, districts, and after-school and out-of-school time programs with supplemental, standards-aligned math confidence kits, student workshops, and educator professional development. A Detroit native, Brittany holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Spelman College and an MBA from Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business. Her work has been featured on Good Morning America, Forbes, Beyonce.com, and more. It is rooted in making math relatable, enjoyable, and relevant to everyday life. So let's bring her in.
Hello.
Hello.
So excited to be back with you all.
Oh, we're thrilled. We're thrilled. We can't wait to hear all of the cool stuff that you've been doing since we last saw you, although Heidi has seen you in person.
I know.
Jealous.
But I mean, your work is so impactful, and I've given it as gifts and all the things. So it's really exciting. But if someone has not seen you on Forbes or Beyonce or you know, Good Morning, like all these other amazing places, what is your math story?
I have loved math my entire life, which usually surprises people. I grew up as the daughter of an educator. So my mother knew she wanted to be a teacher at the age of 7. And she went on to be a teacher. She has a bachelor's degree in special education, a master's degree in educational psychology. She was the founding principal of a charter school for almost 20 years. So education was a non-negotiable in my household. And I naturally gravitated towards math. And I have some thoughts about that I'm sure we'll get into. And so growing up, math was in everything I did. I was in, now it's called STEM. It was not called STEM back then. I was in STEM programs. I was a Girl Scout. And in high school, I actually had the opportunity to take 5 years of math in 4 years opportunity. Wow. I took my Algebra 1 teacher, my freshman year of high school. She noticed my aptitude, so she recommended me for the Geometry and Algebra 2 track my sophomore year. Normally, it was just geometry that we took in 10th grade, but I took both. And then my junior year, I took pre-calculus. And then my senior year, I was in AP Calculus AB. And it was around that time that my mother suggested that I major in mathematics in college. And even as somebody who loved math at the ripe age of 16, I thought that it was it was like the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard. I was like, who would go to college to major in math? Like, all they're doing is math. Like, I could not wrap my young brain around that. And then I ended up going to Spelman College, originally in the dual degree program. So they still have it, I believe, dual degree engineering program, where you would spend 3 years at Spelman, Morehouse, or Clark Atlanta University, majoring in a science. And then you would go on to their partner school. So at the time, Georgia Tech was one, the University of Michigan, there's a handful of them across the country, and get your engineering degree in 2 years. And then you graduate, with with 2 bachelor's degrees. So I came in as a computer science major. And my vision was, I'm going to major in computer science, and then I'm going to go to Georgia Tech and major in computer engineering, and it's going to be great. Now, again, this was the early 2000s, so coding was not sexy like it is now. That's C++.
Yeah.
Not at all. I was like, what is going on? So I was a computer science major for 1 year. And then my freshman year, I'll never forget it, I was calling my mom, telling her that I was changing my major. Or did I say my freshman year? My sophomore year, I was calling my mom to tell her that I was changing my major to mathematics. So it was kind of one of those I told you so moments.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Did she say it?
I don't think she did. I was very sheepish when I called. I think she felt bad. So it was kind of like, you were right. And so around that time as well, I also started tutoring in Spelman's math lab. And so this is where other students from other majors would come in to get help with, what college math or algebra, whatever they needed support with. And that was my introduction to math anxiety, because students would come in upset about having to do math and needing help with math, and saying things like, okay, I got one more class, or this is my last class, and then I'm done with this math. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, people really don't like math. And so while that was happening, I also learned that I was really, really good at helping people understand math concepts and also helping them see that they can do mathematics. So tutoring became my side hustle. So I still tutor to this day. My business is not a tutoring business, but I still tutor. I have about 7 students on my roster right now. And it was there again that I learned about math anxiety, and I really strengthened my math skill. And so fast forward, however many years, I went on to Carnegie Mellon to get my MBA and worked in industry for a little while. And then I ended up moving back home to Detroit, which is where I was born and raised. And I started tutoring at a nonprofit here at the time it was called the Downtown Boxing Gym. Now it's called Driven by Growth. And they have a very strong academic component. And I was the resident math tutor for about 5 years. And very early on into my experience with them, I noticed, because we had at the time, and there's still this really long waiting list for the program. It's a wonderful program. At the time, we had roughly 150 students enrolled in the program. It's an after school program. And they came from all school districts in the Southeast Michigan area, different grades, anywhere between the ages of 8 and 18. And of course, we know mathematics is the study of patterns. And so I started to notice very quickly, a lot of the students not only didn't have the foundation in basic mathematics, they lacked confidence, which of course we know tends to go hand in hand. And it didn't matter where they went to school. It wasn't like, oh, these kids from this school or these kids in this grade. It was everybody. I could count on one hand how many of my students actually sought me out to do additional math and have fun with math. And so I was like, I want to do more, because obviously now we're in the the 2010s, and AI is not a thing. You have to be physically present to tutor, and it's one-on-one. And I'm like, I want to do more. I want to touch more children, because now STEM is a thing and math anxiety is a thing. And I was sitting on what else I could do. I'm like, I want to do something where I can reach more students and have a national impact. Also around this time, so I met who's now my husband around this time, and he introduced me to the wonderful world of subscription boxes. I was amazed. He had a really crazy work schedule. So he was one of the early adopters of, HelloFresh, Blue Apron, the food subscription boxes. And I was like, so they send you the food and like the recipe and all you have to do is cook it? And he's like, yeah. So I thought that was really cool. And then fast forward a few years later, I had the idea that I wanted to create a subscription box to help kids with math. STEM is now a buzzword. Now everybody's doing STEM. And so as I'm peeling back the onion on this and I'm looking at the STEM efforts, and I'm not knocking STEM efforts. I'm just saying that as math practitioners, we know a lot of STEM efforts lack a clear and intentional focus on mathematics. And that is a problem because math is the foundation of STEM. You can't major in any STEM major without knowing and being comfortable with basic math. And beyond that, there's just so many other majors and careers that have a strong math component. You think of accounting or finance or business, all these majors and careers require a math understanding and a foundation. So I said, I'm going to do a subscription box. And at the time, I wanted to focus on girls in particular for all the reasons that we are well aware of. And as I was reading the academic journals, because I love to nerd out on academic journals and research, I think that's part of the reason why I love math so much. I started to see more about intersectionality. So Black children and girls, and what happens when you look at the intersection of the two, where they're the most marginalized from both a gender and race perspective. So I said, I'll narrow my focus to that audience to help them also feel included in this conversation about who gets to access mathematics at a high level. And so at the time, that's how my original brand, Black Girl Magic, was born.
Yes. And that's the one that we first learned about and recognized. So it was amazing.
I feel like I didn't remember a lot of your story, and I am so interested in like that you went from like understanding a food subscription box to making a math subscription. Like those are not close. So go you.
You inspiration from anywhere. And this is what I tell young people all the time about having exposure. Sometimes young people are like, I'm 12, I don't like this thing and I don't like it. And I'm like, but you never know how your mind can change over the years. You never allow yourself to have lots of different experiences and be exposed to different things, because you'll not only learn what you don't like, you will also learn what you do like. And you never know where inspiration can come from. So absolutely. I was just in love with the model. And when I thought about it even deeper, when we talk about math anxiety, it is not an experience that just like one time a child has a math anxious experience and now they're math anxious. It compounds over time.
It does compound, but most people can trace it back to that one experience and then they have 500 more after that.
Yeah. They have like some really impactful, big thing that happened. And then the confirmation bias and other things, contribute to continuing to perpetuate that. And I knew that with the subscription box, I was like, we have to keep hitting the kids every month. We cannot just give them one fun experience or one positive or math affirming experience and then saying, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what, I already know, but it would be great for our listeners to hear what you included in the boxes?
Yes, absolutely. So again, going back to that research, everything that is included in the kits is thoughtfully curated to address the phenomena that contribute to low math confidence and high math anxiety. And so I knew from working with my students that it had to have a real world bend. Like it just had to, because if we all had a quarter for every time we heard, when am I going to use this? We would be in Bali somewhere. We would be on the beach, And so I said it has to have a real world bend. Like whatever I do, it's going to be themed real world. That those experiences help kids, of course, internalize the mathematics. So every kid is based on a real world theme. And the way that we come up with the real world theme is anchored in the story of a real life mathematician. So that's another piece of it. We know that when children see people doing math and enjoying it, that gives them, a little like, I can do this too. So the way that I find the mathematicians, I joke and say I'm a scout, because I'm always, when I was doing the subscriptions every month, I was like always on the search for mathematicians. So some of them I met on Instagram or social media. Some of them are former classmates from middle school, high school, college. Some of them I just randomly found, or people introduced me after I started doing this work. People would message me, I have somebody I think would be good for your kids. And so whatever the mathematician does, whether that's a career or a hobby, and I feel like it is easily explainable to like a 10 or 11-year-old, we would invite them to be featured. And so we have about 60 kits in our catalog, and we've covered, you name it. We've done hair in math. We've done fashion in math. We've done TikTok in math. We've done football in math and basketball in math, because math isn't everything. So it's not hard connection. And so in the kits, we start with either our 3rd through 5th grade or 6th through 8th grade workbooks. So our original kits are 3rd through 8th grade. And then we did do separately a kindergarten through 2nd grade bundle, which was just a one-time offering because our customers were asking for it. In the 3rd through 8th grade kits, we have our workbook, which contains the standards aligned math problems and activities. And also, before they actually start doing the math, they're reading. So we are cross-curricular. They're reading about the mathematician. So we write a short bio about the mathematician, and then a shortened version of our interview with the mathematician. And we also start our interviews off with, what is your math story? So same and our interviews with, what would you tell a child who doesn't feel confident in their math ability? So every mathematician that. And so after they've read about the mathematician and learned how the mathematician uses math as a basketball coach or as a retired NFL player, we a retired NFL player who I'm sure most of y'all know, Dr. John Urschel. And then we go into roughly eight or so pages of math related to that particular theme. So in our music kit, we were doing fractions, and we were converting on our playlist, converting hours to minutes and vice versa. And so again, standards align, 3rd through 5th, 6th through 8th. We do some spiraling just so kids can make sure, make sure they're remembering the skills that they've built over time. And then after that, we include a math affirmation. And so this really came from my time with girls, because I often say I am not a therapist, but I have fielded lots of tears in some of my tutoring sessions, self-deprecating language, mental blocks that are very hard to break. So I knew I needed to give students something that helped them reframe and reshape how they think about themselves in the context of mathematics. So it's a little 4x6 postcard. It could be something as simple as a statement that says, I am a math person, to I use math to change the world, something where we can just get them speaking positively about math and themselves in context of mathematics. Then we also include a screen-free manipulative. And so, the education streets are hot right now,
they are.
Dialing back screen time, getting rid of it for K1 and drastically cutting it down for the other grades. And screen-free from the start. So I launched in 2019. I already felt like kids were over-screened, and that was before COVID. So what we do to counter that is we include a manipulative of some sort. It could be dice, it could be math dominoes, it could be a card game. So something to get them feeling the math, because again, the reason, how the experiences help with retention. And then things to make it fun. Stickers. Work with the local artist here in Detroit, Philip Simpson. He's a muralist, very, very talented, well-known, sought after, and he creates art for our sticker sheets. We also include other items to make it, feel like a fun experience. So it's usually some type of school supply. It could be, a fun pencil, or some really cool erasers, things like that. Then we also have a Magic motivation chart, which is our version of a progress chart, a reward chart, where they can get the little dopamine hit from checking off a box to say, I did this. And for the parents or caring adults, because sometimes, and I know we'll talk about this now, so the schools and districts, and sometimes the schools will purchase our kits as a family engagement tool. So if it goes home, we already know mom more than likely is not talking positively about mathematics at home, more than likely. Sometimes we have outliers. But so we provide a caring adult guide for caregiver, caring adult at home to help them feel supported. And then we also have an educator guide that exists. That's the one item that exists online, and it has all the standards in it. It has the math vocabulary terms. It has, if our mathematician has an online presence, we'll put a link to their website in there. The answer key to the workbooks is in there. So everything an educator or out of school time program facilitator would need to execute, in the kids in a school or a learning setting.
Yeah. It's an amazing way to like holistically look at real world mathematics in a way that is interesting to kids, but also incorporates reading, incorporates many of the arts into the work that you're doing. And
also it highlights actual mathematicians, right? Which is, I mean, I never learned about any mathematicians, and I was a math major. No one even told me about Euclid. Like, you know what I mean? We weren't talking about that. We were only just performing math. So I think that's a really, obviously that turned up in your research for that reason, because I never knew anything about actual mathematicians.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because now you have me reflecting on my time studying mathematics in college, and I'm like, did we learn about, I didn't even know about the hidden figures until the movie came out.
Right.
And I went to a historically Black college. So
that's pretty bad.
Learn it anywhere.
Yeah. That would be the place.
That's part of it too.
Yeah.
So that kids can see, the hidden figures, I think, really helped this conversation take off.
Oh my gosh, you're not kidding.
Inspiration.
Phenomenal.
And having and then like once you start, I think, down that road, then you learn more and more, right? So like there was a whole, we see the hidden figures as like the rock stars of that group, but there were many other women.
Yeah, for them to get to that point, there had to be people that came before them.
Right. And if we look at the women that they worked with, right, like there was a whole team of women doing that computing, and, in many cases doing it as like second tier workers within that environment until, things happen later. But it's
for sure,
when we look at that, when we think about that, all those individual stories of women, Black women who had to overcome to get to that point in ways like, and we still have all those stories that we have not investigated fully. Right.
Yeah. But that story was so well told that that you want to hear more stories, because it was so well done and really brought racism right out there. And this is what it is. This is what it used to look like.
For sure.
So, still can. Yeah. It's such a big part of that work.
Right. It still can.
Yeah. And so it's always interesting to me, like when we have these moments and opportunities to do work with kids in those spaces and giving them opportunities to see math in different ways. And I love like the physical manipulative piece of it, right? Because we are often asked for like, what do I do with my kid at home? Or what do I do? Like last night, one of the schools I worked with, we had a math night, and we actually ran out of materials, which, we thought we were real well prepared for like the number of people who would come. But in the end, like we had to like say, okay, we're just going to make more kits, because we sent everyone home with dice and cards and all of those things. So you could play the games that you're doing in like while we were there doing them with the
what
kids.
A great response to run out.
Oh yeah. It was the best.
It's exciting.
Like the best possible problem. Right. But you have families who are, speaking multiple languages and interacting with each other and with the community. And like, these are all opportunities to bring people's stories together. They're going to like begin to think about, okay, I'm going to make a connection to this mathematician that I learned about in this box. And I might share it with my friend at school the next day who may not know about that. And so like it begins to have ripple effects out into a much larger audience that, like you may not have even thought about, like, I mean, I know you did, but it was that idea, like that ripple effect begins to happen in ways that are even greater than you originally could expect.
100%.
So awesome. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Why do so many kids decide they're not a math person, and what does it actually take to change that story? I mean, we've already been talking about it, but
there's so much to unpack here.
Mhm.
I'm going to try to keep it brief. There are a few things that I think the listeners can probably relate to, either from their own experiences or from friends, family. The biggest one is what they are hearing at home.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, one of the biggest ones. So a lot of kids decide very early on they're not a math person because they hear someone in their family or in their friend group. More, I would say family probably has a stronger influence. So mom, dad, mostly mom, because of the things we've already discussed in terms of anxiety in girls and women, math anxiety in girls and women. So, and it's it's not meant to be malicious, right?
Right.
We all mean well. I'm a mom, like we all mean well. And sometimes we're just trying to relate to our baby. So if baby didn't do well on a test, mom or dad might say, you know what? I understand. I wasn't really a math person growing up either. Somewhere along the line, we came up with this idea that it was genetic, that you could either be skilled at math or not. And we've, the scientists have said, no, that's actually not true. So that messaging, of course, has permeated throughout families. And then we also have pop culture, mainstream media. It's like, you get a white card and then you start doing white cards everywhere, right? So when I started doing this work, I'm trying to relax at night, watch myself a little Lifetime movie. It's been a full day. And then I'm hit with some language. Oh, I'm failing. The cheerleader.
Yeah.
The cheerleader, the jock. Every time. I'll say
always math.
9.9 times out of 10, right?
Always math.
So it's always math.
Yeah.
It is every now and then it's science, but that's still math, right? Like chemistry is a lot of math. And then who do they send in to help the cute cheerleader or the pocket jock? Who gets sent in to help?
The kid with the glasses and the pocket protector.
Yes.
The nerdiest kid ever. The ugly duckling, the social outcast.
Yeah.
What is this messaging saying? What is this messaging telling our babies?
Yeah.
And then also, if we are looking at this from either a gender or race or ethnicity perspective, stereotype threat, right? So if a boy tells a girl, girls can't do math, right? And the girl internalizes that message, then she's going to believe that she can't do math. And so those are just a few of the high level reasons why so many kids decide very early on they're not a math person. And when we talk about girls, and I talk about girls a lot because my original business was really focused on how do we help girls see themselves as math people. We also have to think about as they're coming into their identity as girls and as young women, and they're coming into their femininity, maybe they're starting their cycles, a lot of things are happening physiologically. And sometimes math doesn't fit into that image because in some circles it is presented as a math, science and math is masculine. This is what boys do. This is, rolling up sleeves and getting dirty. I'm over here painting my nails, which is rooted in a lot of stereotype thread, right? A lot of stereotypes. And that is another piece of it too. If you look at it from, a gender perspective, girls are often dissuaded. We have studies that show girls love to read. And I read one study that said it's not that they're so much better at reading. It's just that they're encouraged, right, in that way to be more so into the humanities and the liberal arts and that kind of thing. And so all of that, is percolating every single day for our babies. They get on TikTok. We all see it because we all get tagged. The order of operations problem. You got 8,000 people arguing in the comments. Y'all are dumb. It's this way, and it's not. Y'all are stupid. You're supposed to multiply first. And so all of that. Are we arguing in the comments about where to put this comma splice? Like, are we arguing about, what are apposite phrases?
Yeah.
I'm like pulling from my ELA days because I also was.
Yeah.
I was a world-class nerd. Like, I loved journalism and writing as well. We're not.
Yeah.
We're arguing about math.
Right.
We're arguing about academics on math and on social media. It's usually about math.
Yeah.
So all of that is a perfect storm for where we are today.
I never really yes, I've seen a million of those arguments on social media, but I never thought to even say like, oh yeah, I've never seen one about writing.
Yeah.
Or like
now and then you might
reading.
get about a typo.
Typo or like the Oxford comma, maybe.
Yeah.
Like there, but it's really,
you get your most passionate folks.
Yes.
Particularly on those order of operations problems.
Yeah.
And it's
my
now where
goodness,
my friends will send me stuff. Like they will tag me in reels on Instagram where the parents are like looking at my son's math homework and like they're like crying. They tag me in all these things. And every day I'm just like, okay. Oh boy. Because we are in a STEM world at this point. Like there is no turning back. I tell my young people, I also work in the out of school time space. So I teach pre-algebra to 6th grade girls. I'll be working with girls and boys this summer in an out of school time engineering program here in the Metro Detroit area. And my kids have to hear everything, because I'm perpetually on my soapbox. We start every single class with a math affirmation. We end every class with the mathematician of the day. They know in front of me, they cannot use the word hard. I consider it a part of the other 4-letter words that they cannot say in front of adults. So there's all these things they already know. And I'm just telling them, like, ladies and gentlemen, well, just ladies right now, but ladies, you all want to be OBGYNs, you want to be engineers, you want to be anesthesiologists. We don't get to say we're not math people anymore. We cannot say, maybe your mommy and daddy and grandmas and aunties could say that, but not now. AI is a thing. An AI major is pretty much a math major. You go look at the requirements. All of these majors are math majors with sprinkles on top, so we have to have the skill. And it's just so interesting to me to see the disconnect and how much we need math for career in life in the way that it is presented, talked about, and commiserated over in our country. It's like wild to me.
And I think
that there's a distinct difference between what people see as math in real life and what people understand as math in school. Unfortunately, school math has a really bad reputation for being very boring and very teacher-centric, and which is not how it is in all classrooms by any means. But I do think that that's part of that issue for sure.
I would agree. 100%. I mean, it's happening in enough classrooms and in enough schools where that is the overarching.
And also it happened for probably most adults.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It's so interesting though when I sometimes my parents when I speak to the students I tutor, and sometimes they'll say, or I'll just hear parents say this, when we're at events, and they're like, we didn't learn it this way. I'm talking about Common Core and all of that, math, and I'm like, but a lot of us weren't happy with the way.
I know. Did you love math? Why are you complaining if we're changing it?
With the way we were taught. And I'm like,
was it your favorite subject?
Usually not.
Right.
But I just showed him how I was taught. And I'm like, okay. We can work with that.
Yeah. No, it is so hard. I'm like, please don't. Like, I have been in cases where I've like gotten calls or like FaceTimes or whatever. Can you help my kid?
Yeah.
Like, yes. Yeah. Like, I don't understand. I don't want to like, teach them something too early or like, and so I finally like have trained a bunch of my friends. I'm like, okay, you're going to just call me. Or like, and that's how we're going to deal with that, because you end up with, you don't want parents to feel like they don't know, but it's also, we were not taught that way.
Yeah.
Well, they are, sometimes they undermine by helping, and their intent is not to undermine, but you don't want them doing the standard algorithm for subtraction in first grade.
Yeah.
So can we not do that, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, but they don't know. They're trying to help, and it's all that they do know how to do. So they teach it to their kids. So,
and I think
so it's nice that you're having math nights, and it's nice that you're doing stuff with parents, because that's hopefully, in some small way changing the reputation by helping parents understand that there's a reason why we're doing math, or introducing things at different times, not the same way that they learned.
Yeah. And I think too, there I know some pockets of schools and districts did an actual rollout when the way the approach was shifted. A lot of them didn't. So, to the parents' credit, I understand this, because even when I was at the downtown boxing gym, that was my introduction to partial products and partial quotients. And I would literally look at their homework and I would be like, give me 1 second, because I would get
let me get online.
we would normally be in the computer lab, or I would excuse myself to go to the computer lab, and I would go Google and teach myself, how to do this thing. And I'm like, okay, this is me as someone who loves mathematics, who has a degree, who has an aptitude for it, right? Like I can catch on pretty quickly. I cannot imagine if my child, brought home a worksheet that said solve with partial quotients. Like, what do you mean a partial what are we talking about?
Yeah, only do it part of the way.
Right. Like, what is happening? Right. So, I understand that too. I think, the rollout probably could have been,
and it could have been a lot needed to continue, right? Like it's not a one-time thing, because every year your child is going to be experiencing new mathematics in ways that you're not familiar with. So it's not a one-time deal. It's like every year we have to go back and do that kind of education, and and some of it is not even, I would say, like an education on how to do it, because I'm hoping that we're not sending home things that kids are not going to know how to do, or at least have some access to, right? But it is part of it, like a re-education of how can we talk about math, or is it okay for you to just ask questions versus immediately go and show them a procedure, like, so that they're used to, like, okay, well, what kind of tools could you use? How might you draw a picture to help you understand? Like those kind of responses versus like, oh, I have to be the one to fix it because they came home and didn't know what to do. So just a different way to kind of think about it.
Yeah. And that's some of the language and support and inspiration we try to provide on the Caring Adult Guide that goes home, that is included in the kit. These are some ways, that you can support your young person in maximizing the kid, and, just leading with curiosity and not defeat.
Yeah, I think that takes an awful lot. And I think parents often don't realize that time is precious for them. And, we all know, we have kids that you get home and you cook dinner and then you're dealing with homework. You're ready for bed already. So you're trying to get this done as quick as possible. So what's the shortcut? Just show them what you know.
Yeah. I mean, and now, unfortunately, some of our babies are just dumping the whole assignment right into their preferred AI tool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we all know that AI is not perfect at solving mathematics problems.
It isn't?
It was multiplying decimals wrong for me the other day. I was working on a timesheet and I really wanted the table. I was like, I gotta hurry up and get this submitted, just make this table. And when I was looking, I was like, this math is not right. But and that's what I say to them too. I'm like, okay, y'all are using it, but you haven't yet built, because you're in the 6th grade, you haven't yet built the discernment and literacy to know if it's even telling you the right thing, baby. So what are we?
So you're just going along with whatever it is, and
one of my students.
Right, but we have a ton of experience with that in the internet, so it's fine.
Yeah. Molly, are you trying to ruffle some feathers?
No, I wouldn't do that.
I love it.
So yeah, there's a lot we have to unpack, but I think the more we have conversations like this, and the more math nights and shameless plug, the more schools, districts, and out of school time programs who give Math Equals Me kids to supplement what their students are learning. I just think there's a way forward.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about how people can learn more about the work you're doing, and we'll put up like where they can find you on these spaces, but talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. So do you mind too if I answer the second part of the question? The original
yes.
Sorry. Question about how do we change that story? That's going to lead into this answer as well. So as we've already discussed, all of the items are curated in the kit to address things that help children build stronger math confidence, math identity, and a sense of belonging. So how we change that story is we have to, in a sense, inundate our kids with positive math experiences to counter the negative math experiences. And so I often use exercise as a kind of like a metaphor for what I mean by that. Meaning, unfortunately, you don't do one sit-up and have a six-pack, right? Like you don't do one.
I have tried that. You are correct.
You don't do one push-up and now you have all the upper body strength in the world. You do not do one calf raise and now your calves, look like, I'm trying to think of a famous person who has nice calves. I can't think of it.
I don't know, somebody.
Think of the famous person with really nice calves. The magic is in the mundane, right? The routine, the thing we do time and time again, the discipline is what gives us the results. And it's the same thing for helping our children build math confidence. We know that math anxiety can start as early as 5 years old. I've been around kids I've had a 10-year-old tell me she was not a math person with decisiveness and with conviction. She was dead serious, and so we have to give our kids experience. We have to over and over and over and over again. It's like whack-a-mole, like give them one experience and now we got to give them another positive, engaging, fulfilling, affirming math experiences. And so that's what we endeavor to do in the Math Equals Me kits. So in 2024, I made a strategic pivot from Black Girl Magic to Math Equals Me. And with that pivot, we went from our monthly subscription direct to consumer to a business to business model where we now primarily sell to schools, districts, in after school and out of school time programs. That was partly because of COVID, partly because I became a mother, and I was thinking about what I wanted my business to look like and what impact I wanted it to have. And so now what we're doing is we are positioning the kits as a supplement that can live inside of a classroom, as a center, a station for your early finishers who need an additional challenge. For math nights, we've served some districts and schools with math nights, if that's a fun gift to go home with the family, and a variety of other ways. One of our longest partners, Royal Oak Middle School here in Michigan, we've been a part of their Tier 2 math intervention program. This is our third school year with them. One of the stats we're really proud of is that 88% of the students surveyed who got the kits said that their math confidence increased as a result of it.
Amazing.
So I'm also, thank you. I'm trying to, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is how do we position math confidence as another data point along with testing, other things that we track. Math confidence, it is qualitative, but it can be quantified. And in my surveys, that is the impact data I'm tracking. Every now and then I'll get a question about test scores. And I'm like, my kids make no promises about test scores because pun intended, there are too many variables that go into how a child performs on a test. And my goal is, do they feel comfortable when it's time to take the test? Are they confident? Are they ready to persist when a problem looks a little difficult? Do they have the tenacity, the grit, to push through? So that is what we build in the Math Equals Me kits. And so we're online everywhere. We are at mathequalsme.com. That's our website, which is actually going to be getting a makeover very soon.
Woo!
Ooh.
Long overdue. And then we're also on Instagram and Facebook at Math Equals Me. Now, we are still building out the Math Equals Me presence. A lot of people are more familiar with Black Girl Magic. So we are also on social media. We're on TikTok at Black Girl Magic, Twitter, or what is it, X now? We're also on Instagram and Facebook, and then our website, of course, is blackgirlmagic.com. And so we still have inventory that we're selling through. So for individual consumers, if you go on our blackgirlmagic.com website, we still have our t-shirts, and we have mystery kits and really cute lapel pins with Maya, who's our girl character, on them.
She's so cute.
She's adorable, isn't she? And mathequalsme.com is where we send our interested school district and youth serving organization partners. And so we are really focused on building out our pipeline. I am a solopreneur, so I do too much in my business. And so really trying to just get the word out and, to busy educators is tough, so I'm really thankful, to Heidi and Molly for having me on today. So please out, and keep us in mind, for, again, Math Night, STEM Night, your math clubs, your any opportunity to just have fun, more fun with mathematics, and to supplement. Again, whatever you're using, if you're Eureka, illustrative, I don't care. We're curriculum agnostic. We're just here to supplement, complement, and what you're already doing.
I was thinking, do schools put some of your products like in their library? Like, I feel like it would be a lovely place for that to live, right?
You just made me think. So the math intervention.
I'm going to add some more work for you because you need it.
That is, and what's so funny? I have several thoughts. So we actually did a library and math box. One of my classmates from high school, she has a math degree and an English degree, and she got a master's in library science. And so she's a librarian. Cool. And I was just so pressed to tell kids about how we archive and find books in the library is with decimals. I was just so excited, to show and to talk about the Dewey Decimal System. So that could be like one natural fit, but I think that makes a lot of sense. I have no idea where to start with that, but I think that is really smart. And the math interventionist that I just mentioned at Royal Oak Middle School, she created a library in her classroom where her students can check out our kids.
That's cool.
It's a really cute cubby she bought, and they can check it out for 4 weeks at a time. She has a sign out sheet on top of the table. And I literally, the first time, because I go to her class twice a year, and the first time I saw it, I was emotional. I was like, I never would have come up with this on my own. So we want to be the chameleon that fits in a lot of different settings.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And obviously, we're going to keep having these conversations, and you're going to keep having these conversations. And then that ripple effect that Heidi was talking about will hopefully wear on.
Continue on.
Take off.
Okay.
Take off. You know how when you put the ripple in the pond, it just
there we go. There we go.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, Brittany.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Oh, again, so fun.
No, I love it.
I love how her work has transformed into, something that could have even more breadth. I mean, very cool.
No, and I mean, like schools, like having that space, and you think about like there's always a drama club. There's like okay, so your math club, here's your materials for that. Like you're not going in and needing to create your own. You can start your own math club and go with it.
That's fun. Love it. Well, in a couple of weeks, we'll be meeting with our friend Kathy Mark Carpan, and we're super excited about that. I don't know what she's talking about. I think she's talking about concept circles, maybe.
I think so, maybe. Yes.
That is the reason why we know her. So That should be a great conversation. You can find our book at Didex. It's called Math Activators.
And until then, we hope that you keep math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.